Presentations this evening. We will receive a presentation from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, SFPUC, on the Regional Groundwater Storage and Recovery Project.
Honorable Mayor, good evening. You received lately, you had the opportunity to approve for the water enterprise 3 major policy documents. The Urban Water Management Plan, the Water System Master Plan, and also the Groundwater Management Plan. All of these 3 documents made reference to or assess the feasibility of our city participation in a regional project, the regional called Regional Groundwater Storage and Recovery Project. The city collaborated and negotiated with the other agency, Daly City, Cal Water, and SFPUC for the participation of the city in this project. Greg Bartow from SFPUC is the program manager for this project, and he will give you a update on the status of the project, and also will give you information. We will provide you and the public with the information on the next step on this project. Greg?
Thank you, Clara. Good evening, Mayor and other members of the City Council. My name is Greg Bartow. I'm the Groundwater Program Manager with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to provide an update on the proposed Regional Groundwater Storage and Recovery Project. One of the important milestones that's coming up with that project is the circulation of the draft environmental impact report. And so given that upcoming milestone, I appreciate the opportunity to just brief you on the project and talk about the public review process. So the goal of the project is to limit system-wide cutbacks in our water supply to no more than 20% system-wide. So this project will have a benefit for all 2.6 million people that depend on the Hetch Hetchy water system for all or part of their water supply. The project builds on 15 years of cooperation that we've had collectively, the West Side Basin Partners, the City of San Bruno, the City of Daly City, Cal Water, and the SFPUC. We've developed a regional groundwater monitoring program, a computer model for the basin. We've done a pilot groundwater banking study. And most recently, last year, the Southwest Side Basin Groundwater Management Plan was completed with San Bruno in the lead on that. The project's been developed based on strong technical understanding. We have over 100 groundwater monitoring wells in the basin that we've used to help design the project. And so that data has helped us develop a strong project. An overview of the project, so it's a conjunctive use project, which is sort of the coordinated management of surface water and groundwater. Again, with the 4 entities in the basin, we want to store up to 60,500 acre-feet of groundwater underground between Daly City and Millbrae, and that's comparable to the amount of water that's in Crystal Springs Reservoir. And so we're creating this local drought supply partially under San Bruno, which is will be a great asset to the region. We're going to construct 16 wells and well stations shown as those dots on that map for extracting that stored water. And the concept is to be able to develop enough or store enough water that it will be able to yield 7.2 million gallons per day over a 7.5-year design drought. It can also be used as an emergency. These wells could be also operated in the event of emergency or other system outage. This graphic shows how we're going to store water in the basin. So the top left little block diagram shows the initial conditions before we started storing water in the basin. The depth to groundwater was about 200 to 300 feet below the ground surface. And the way we're storing the water is called an in-lieu recharge. And so in normal and wet years, when there's sufficient water within the Hetch Hetchy system, we'll provide more water to San Bruno, Cal Water, and Daly City, and those entities will reduce their pumping, and that'll allow the natural recharge to build up in the basin. And then the last slide or the last block diagram on the right, then we would recover that stored groundwater when there's a drought through those 16 wells. And so sort of using it instead of a rainy day account, a dry day account there, a savings account. Also, it's important that it's noted that we only are going to take or recover water that we've stored after accounting for project losses, and the SFPUC is working. In other words, the SFP is going to work to, we may need to store more water to account for system inefficiencies. We're also working with San Bruno and the other pumpers to make sure that our new wells are designed so that we don't impact existing or future wells. This next slide shows what happened when we did a study back in 2002 to 2005. This graph shows from that over that time period, water levels increasing in the basin because during that period of time, the pumpers in the basin reduced their pumping and took additional surface water supplies. So by not pumping, that allowed that groundwater levels to increase in the basin, and this was a measurement of water levels in the West Side Basin. They increased about 40 feet just in that period of time. The next three slides I'll go through the location of the wells just briefly. This is up in the Daly City, Colma area, and then in the Colma to South San Francisco area, and in San Bruno. In San Bruno, there are two proposed wells, both located in the Golden Gate National Cemetery, and there's also another well just in the southern portion of South San Francisco off of Spruce. Those three wells are proposed to be connected to the distribution system for San Bruno. On next steps, so then the draft, as I mentioned earlier, the draft environmental impact report is scheduled to be circulated starting April 10th for public review by the San Francisco Planning Department. There'll be a 45-day public comment period. There'll be two public hearings, one in South San Francisco and one in San Francisco. The draft EIR will be available online, as well as there'll be a copy placed in the San Bruno Library and other libraries on the peninsula. Information will be posted at the San Francisco Planning Department's website. That's also the phone number for the planner, Tim Johnston, and his email address if you have any questions about the EIR. And then certification of the environmental impact report is expected by the end of this year, by the end of 2013. And following the EIR certification, then the draft project operating agreement then could be considered for approval by the cities of San Bruno and Daly City, Cal Water, and the SFPUC. Construction is planned to take place from 2014 to 2016, and then those wells would be available and ready to put into service in case of a drought by mid-2016. I really want to thank San Bruno for all the cooperation in the planning and design of this project over the last number of years, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Greg? Irene?
Thank you. Could you, for the public, define what a dry year is?
We look at our system storage on April 1st and look at how much storage is in the reservoirs and how much snowpack is upcountry, and can make some assessments of whether we'll have sufficient water supply to make it through the coming year. And so it's drought or low water, low snowpack, and so there's some measurements based on whether we would have full system storage as of April 1st.
Okay, but how would the public know what a dry year is? I mean,
well, I guess so an average rainfall year, I guess a dry year is when we're below average in our rainfall, and so there's As far as a technical definition of a drought, I think is actually you need some of a drought is multiple dry years, but a dry year would be less snowpack for us up in the Sierras than is average, significantly less. But I guess I don't have the specific definition for you.
Okay, isn't there a trigger point that says when the system, the aggregate 20% water reduction, let me rephrase that. Isn't there a trigger when San Francisco PUC says that everyone has to cut back their water by 20%? And
Right.
isn't that what's technically a dry year?
Yes, I guess when we call the drought, and I think there's the details are in the interim water shortage allocation plan, and I don't know the exact specifics on that. I can get back to you through Clara for the definition.
I guess what I'm saying I want people to understand is just because it doesn't rain as much as normal or what would be considered normal, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a, quote, dry year. But
Correct.
there's specific scientific triggers that make it a dry year. That was just something I was going to put out there. Who's paying for all this?
So this project, the capital costs are being paid for by all of the 2.3 million people that depend on the system. We have sold bonds to pay for all the capital portions of the project. This is part of our broader water system improvement program, $4.3 billion program to upgrade seismically and for the water supply system. For the operation and of these well stations, those costs would be also paid for by the regional system,
Okay.
of which San Bruno is one of the entities within the regional system.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add just a short clarification, it's very clearly defined in our master supply agreement with SFPUC when it's a very lengthy process, when is the trigger point for dry year and water reduction will be placed in for all of the agencies and all of the cities, and is very clearly defined in the supply agreement, and that at that when the trigger point will be in place will be a public announcement for everybody, and based on the existing agreement at that time SFPUC would still supply us with more water, but the cost of that water would be higher. And the trust of the agreement right now is that based on our negotiation for the last 10 years with SFPUC, that all of any additional cost also relates to the city's participation on this regional project will be paid not by San Bruno residents, but by the project itself.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
And keeping us informed.